Thank you, and good evening. My name is Attorney Mika Thompson, and today we are here with our guest, Felicia Simmons Stovall. She's an attorney and a member of the Cook County Bar Association. We are the oldest association of African American lawyers and judges in the United States, and we come to you at this time at 6:30 p.m. to discuss issues of legal import and that legal questions that you may have and concerns that are facing the Chicago metropolitan area. So today again we have our guest who is Felicia Simmons Stovall, and we want you to call in. The number appears at the bottom of your screen. It's 312-738-1060, and today's topic will be election law, which is very important and very timely considering that Chicago and many cities and towns across the United States are in the midst of their elections, right? So here in Chicago, we are embarking upon our early voting. So we're going to get some information from our election law expert, Attorney Simmons Stovall. Am I saying that correctly?
You are.
Okay. And so call in. Again, the number is 312-738-1060. Again, this is the Cook County Bar Association's Live on Can TV show, and we do not advocate for any particular position or political policy. We are here strictly to provide the citizens of this country and the viewing public information about the law as it exists in the United States today, but particularly with Chicago. So I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Simmons Stovall, and I'm going to first, we want to get some background about you. What is your background? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, thank you, Mika, for having me again. My name is Felicia Simmons Stovall. I'm an attorney. I'm here in Chicago. Been practicing law for 21 years now.
Okay.
In the areas of election law, family law, securities law, a couple of places, but my heart is a couple of places, but right now working in the area of election law.
Wow, you got a little mix there. That's nice. That's
do.
nice. That's nice. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show and giving our viewers some information about the election law. So first we're going to talk about the election season. So can you give us some information about what that is and what our important dates are?
Well, the elections, actually we are in a very interesting place right now. We're coming on the brink of one and rolling into another. So as everyone is aware, we have Election Day coming up on November the 6th. And it's a good thing that you asked me about it because early voting started today, October the 22nd.
Okay.
And it will run through November the 5th. It allows people within Cook County as well as the Chicago metropolitan areas and throughout Cook County, I should say, to go and choose your candidate. And I think everyone should pay attention to those dates. Also, what we also have, and I'll just put up a little information here, is that we have early voting starting again, as I said, between October the 22nd and November the 5th. We have Election Day, big Election Day on November the 6th, 2018. And you can also vote by mail. And best things to apply for voting by mail is by October the 29th, which allows people who cannot make it for one reason or the other to cast their ballot by mail.
Okay, see? All right. So that gives us some important dates. Thank you, Attorney Stovall. And I didn't know that we could, in the midst of this, really switch up and just vote for the person by mail. So
yes.
Then, but you have to do one or the other, right?
Correct. You will do one or the other. So what it allows three methods of voting. And the excellent thing about it, as I stated before, is that early voting starts today. Some people cannot make it out on November the 6th, but it allows you to cast a ballot anywhere in Chicago or Cook County. There are specific early voting sites, but there are approximately 50 within the city of Chicago. You can vote downtown at the Board of Elections, and then there's throughout the County of Cook, particularly, you can vote at your selected early voting site. So that's one method. The other method is, of course, coming on voting day, which is our November the 6th day. But for those of us who cannot make it, you can vote by mail, and that's always a wonderful thing, because you do have seniors, you have individuals who cannot make it for one reason, who may be out of town, the military. We vote by mail.
Okay. I am an attorney, and attorney Simmons Stovall is an attorney, but we
Yes.
do not represent your interests. But we are, fortunately, we are members of a bar association who has a lawyer referral. So we'd like for you to contact the Cook County Bar Association, and you can go to the website. The website is cookcountybar.org, and you can click on lawyer referral, and there you will find a list of attorneys that are qualified and their areas of practice, their contact information. So feel free to contact the Cook County Bar and speak to one of our members of our staff, and they will assist you in identifying an attorney that will address your interest. So again, the number to call in if you have any questions is 312-738-1060. Okay, Attorney Simmons Stovall, what's the next topics of it? It seems like we still have some other dates that we want to talk about.
We do, and one of the things that is really interesting about this time of the year, we are literally running almost two campaigns two election
Okay.
seasons at the same time. We have the gubernatorial race that's on November the 6th, but you may notice that people out there canvassing and circulating petitions for an election that we have coming up in February of 2019, and though that would be our municipal elections. When you vote for your mayor, your trustee, your alderman, your village board, that's in February. But the unique thing about it, we're kind of doing two things at the same time.
Okay.
We're casting our ballots for our governors and for the state offices. But as you come and you prepare for 2019, those key elections are coming up. That canvassing, getting petitions signed, getting the necessary documents together to run in 2019, that started already.
Okay, so when you say gubernatorial, can you explain that to the voters what that means?
Absolutely. So your gubernatorial is voting for your governor, voting for your lieutenant governor, voting for your secretary of state. Those races also include your state treasurer. They would include your state reps, your state senator. Those races right now, people are casting votes for those particular races right now. And that, again, early voting started today, October the 22nd. Will go through November the 5th, and then the actual big election day is November the 6th.
So do we also vote for our federal candidates now, or is that in February?
So the federal candidates as well. So it would be your U.S. congressman in this particular race that goes through the November the 6th date. Your U.S. senator. That's all within this particular what they call the off-season election. So people get so excited about, oh, we voted for our president, in 2020. No, right now you're also casting your votes for your federal offices, or most of your federal offices as well.
Except for the president.
Except for the president and the vice president,
Okay,
correct.
very good. So I see also you have some dates for us to look at for the February and also April. So can you explain
Yes.
those elections? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, as I stated before, we having two elections kind of going on at the same time. So, in 2019, we will have what is considered kind of like a primary election that will occur on February 26th of 2019. You will be voting for your mayor or your city clerk, your city treasurer, your alderman, your trustee. Well, in some cases, particularly in Chicago, we have a 50+1. You have to have more than 50% of the votes in the office plus one in order to win. So if you don't get that, you have to run in a runoff.
So is that for all of the local, or is that for state and local?
So when you're speaking of the So you want to be clear when you're speaking of the February dates what we have coming in 2019. Those are local elections.
Okay.
When you're thinking about the November date, those are like your state reps, and those are like even your U.S. congressmen. So, but it's kind of you don't want to get confused,
Right.
but there are two things going on at the same time. It
Okay.
absolutely
And
is.
then this April election, that's for the run. If there's a runoff,
If there's a runoff in your local election, so
Okay.
if there's a runoff in your local election, your mayor doesn't get the 50+1 in Chicago, your alderman does not get the 50+1 in Chicago, your city clerk does not get the 50+1 vote in Chicago, then they will have to enter a runoff election. And that has happened before. So if you're familiar with Chicago, you've seen runoff elections before because your alderman or your mayor, your candidate did not get that 50+1. The two highest vote getters on that April date, they will run again, and then that will be the deciding factor. Whoever gets the most votes on that April date, that runoff date, that's the one who wins.
Now, since our mayor, Emmanuel, is not running, so we still have, do we have a Democratic candidate or do they pick the person? How does that work?
So in Chicago, it's really interesting. You don't have a party election. It's called a nonpartisan election
Okay.
for mayor. And so
Okay.
when you're running, you're not running as a Democrat, you're not running as a Republican, as an independent, you're running as a nonpartisan.
Okay.
So with nonpartisan elections, you out there and you say, hey, hi, I'm so-and-so, so-and-so. I want to be your next governor. Your next mayor. I want to be your next alderman. I want to be your next city clerk. You don't know party affiliations, although it's kind of hard to kind of separate the
Right.
two. But you don't run as a Democratic candidate. You run, say, I'm going to represent everyone within my particular ward, or everyone, just regardless of the party affiliation.
Gotcha.
And so when that happens, in particularly in Chicago, you don't have where you have a Democrat and a Republican, or a Democrat and an independent, or a party candidate. You have the person who's running, and if they get 50% of the vote, plus that one vote, their own vote. If they get 50% plus one, they win. And if they don't, again, they go to the runoff elections.
Wow. So with all of these individuals that are running for the mayor's office, we could really have a runoff in April.
Yes.
Expert, can you
You-
give your opinion on
Yeah, I mean, the chances are significant that we will have a runoff election. And because
Wow,
in my free time, I've been keeping tally of all these people. So I think I'm at about 20 right now. It may be a little bit more, and so statistically, you likely will not get
The
the
50 plus
50+1. And so you statistically, we more than likely will be having a runoff election.
So just to refresh for those who
Sure.
are just tuning in, it's very likely that in Chicago, our mayor candidate will have to
Absolutely.
participate in a runoff election, and it'll be the top two vote getters.
That's correct.
The ones that get the majority amount, the top two, and they will run off in April.
That is correct. And the
Okay.
interesting thing, too, is not only with the mayor, oftentimes in the automatic elections, there are runoffs. And so I have a quick story. I
Okay.
ran for alderman 2007.
Wow, okay.
And there were 14 people in my race.
Okay.
And so guess what? We had a runoff election.
Okay.
We had a runoff election that following April. So it happens. We did not get, or the candidates did not get the 50+1. And so
Gotcha.
myself and another individual
Okay.
ended up in a runoff. So it happens. And of course, prime example, 14 people in the race,
Yes.
runoff election. 20 people in the race, there's likely going to be a runoff election.
Okay. Now, is there any other candidate or race that you think maybe, aside from the mayor or the candidate for mayor, is there another one that you think may be a runoff?
I think that right now we have a groundswell of, so to speak, of individuals who are voicing an interest in running for like the automatic
Okay.
candidates. So I know Ward one particular case where individuals are asking for my help because again I do election law, and so I've helped candidates, I've run candidates, I've defended cases before the Cook County election board. And so you have individuals who come and will see, well, what do I do in order to run, or what papers do I need to, what petitions do I need to file by what date. And so in a couple of races, I know that there are probably about 4 or 5 candidates who are interested in a particular ward and running for alderman in that particular ward. And again, the more people you have running, if there are series campaigns or if they have a series campaign, the more likely that there will be a runoff election for that particular ward as well.
Okay. All right. So, and when you talk about defending individuals for the Board of Elections, can you give the audience a little information about what that entails? I mean, if somebody, so it's
Absolutely.
always a candidate that's coming to you for your legal advice, and
That's
then
correct.
2, maybe they need to retain your services for litigation purposes.
That's correct.
Okay.
So to get on the ballot, of course, the election law is governed by the Illinois Election Code. So to get on the ballot for a race, there are certain criteria you have to meet. Many times for alderman, you have to live within that ward the year before. So one of my cases that stick out particular, I had an individual who was challenged about her residency, and so actually it was we decided in our favor. Initially, the hearing officer decided in our favor. It was appealed to the Cook County Board of Elections. They decided in our favor, and then we had to go to circuit court, and we actually won. And so it's pretty much you have to be able to establish your residency. Another thing that can happen, and which is kind of different from this election than previous elections, than a county election, that people often get tripped up on, and I talk about avoiding the pitfalls of an election, is that you cannot, particularly for mayor in this nonpartisan race and for aldermen in the nonpartisan race, you cannot have a signature on the petition. So for 2 different individuals. So say someone is running for alderman, and I'll just say in the 51st ward, because we don't have 51
Okay,
wards.
right.
So someone's running for alderman in the 51st, this wonderful 51st ward, and they go and they sign my petition, and then they go and sign my opponent petition. That signature will not be counted. The only signature that would be counted is the one who signed it first.
Got
And so
you.
they cannot sign my petition and the opponent petition, petition in that particular case. And so that's something that's kind of different and kind of unique.
Oh, we have a caller.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Caller, you're on the air. Please state your question. Caller? Hello?
Hi. So my question is this. If I have 2 residences within the city, how do I figure out my polling place? May I vote in either ward, or how would my polling place be designated?
So you have 2 residents in the city of Chicago.
Yes, on 2 properties.
So when you have 2 residents in the city of Chicago, it really depends on what shows with your voter's registration. So say you have a residence on State Street and you have a residence on Dearborn, but you went and you registered to vote on State Street, then that will be the address you use. You can go onto the Chicago Board of Elections website, enter your information, and they'll give you your polling place. That simple.
Oh, okay. I thought it was whichever was my primary, but I can register either.
You can, if you live it, and so and people say, how can you have 2 different residents? You can. You choose the one is your residence, and then you register to vote at that residence, and that's the one you vote at.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay?
And this was an issue for the current mayor when he first submitted his application to
Yes.
run for mayor. This
Yes.
was an issue as
It
to whether
was.
or not he was residing in city of Chicago or in D.C., right?
It is, and particularly in that particular case, it was whether or not he had abandoned his residency, and that was pretty much almost identical to the case that I had to represent someone, is whether or not he had abandoned his residency, and so he was able to present an argument to say that, and to win an argument to say that he had not abandoned his residency, which allowed him to state that he was still a resident of the city of Chicago and to be on the ballot for mayor.
And in that case, the court is looking, or the Board of Elections, I guess, right? That's the first
That was the first
tribunal,
place, yes.
And they're looking at his intent. Where did he intend to reside?
Correct, and whether or not there was any evidence to show that he had abandoned his residency,
Gotcha.
and he was able to establish that he had not, and so he had a right to run.
And that took a while, though.
It did.
Because it went all the way up to what, I mean,
It went up to the Supreme Court
Of
of the state of Illinois, the Illinois Supreme Court.
okay. All right. Well, we're going to continue with our conversation. You did mention the pitfalls. Can you elaborate on that, or did you already cover that completely?
So there are some pitfalls, and one of the things is that you want to make certain that you have all of your papers, your nomination papers in order. You want to make certain that you have not, and I will let me start and preface my my statement. Consult with an attorney.
That's right. Throw your disclaimer out there. That's right.
Consult with an attorney.
Right.
Consult with the Board of Elections, who will tell you to consult with an attorney. But there are some things that you must do, and even to meet the bare minimum. So you have to file your statement of candidacy. An example of that is available on the Illinois State Board of Elections website. You also have to file your nomination petitions, and so the amount of signatures that you would need to have may vary. It depends on if you're running for mayor, you need 12,500 in the city of Chicago. If you're running for alderman in a particular ward, you need 473. If you're running for another county board position or a trustee, it will vary. So it's important to perhaps consult with an attorney, but also go to the Illinois Board of Elections website. You can do that. The other thing is you want to make certain that it's important that if you raise money to run, and to run for a race, it's not free, unfortunately. So if you raise money, make certain that you file the necessary documentation with the Illinois State Board of Elections, because there are requirements once you reach that $5,000 threshold with either expenditures or contributions. You have to file the necessary documentation. And what happens is, if you don't, and if you're fined, and if a case is brought up against you, that can potentially knock you off the ballot. So you want to make certain you do that. You have to file a statement of economic interest. You want to make certain that that's filed. So again, there's certain hurdles that you have to overcome. You just want to make certain that you're meeting those requirements. If you have any questions, contact the State Board of Elections, contact the Chicago Board of Elections, contact the Cook County Board of Elections. All of those places will be able to provide you with, they have campaign, you want to run for office, they have literature that can pretty much answer those questions. And again, if you have any questions, consult with an attorney.
Yes, you definitely need to have a good attorney on retainer for this, because those financial documents, that's very important.
Yes.
And it's not just the documents, having good record keeping too, right?
Because you can really get into some trouble. And when I say trouble, I mean you can have to pay unnecessary fines. Then you can get knocked off the ballot, and you don't really want to get knocked off the ballot, and particularly if you've done everything that you needed to do, and then for some reason or another you signed the wrong statement. And I also know someone that had put some money into an automatic race, and he got knocked off the ballot. So it's important to consult and to ask those questions.
Okay, so we have an overhead here, and we want you to take note of the different agencies that you would need to contact and their website address. We have the Chicago Board of Elections and their website address and phone number, the Cook County Board of Elections, their website and phone number, and the Illinois Board of Elections and their website and phone number. And these are important agencies to contact if you have questions or just to prepare for your candidacy, your running, and also just to make sure that you are doing the things that you need to do if you are involved with the campaign. Okay, so we have 1 minute left, so I would like to allow our guest Attorney Felicia Simmons Stovall to give us her final remarks. Take it away.
So, thank you again for allowing me to come and give some useful information. I hope that what I stated was of some benefit. And again, it's important to access the ballot is very important. If you want to run a race, get out there, ask those questions, and consult with an attorney.
Yes, so thank you again, Attorney Felicia Simmons Stovall, for being our guest. And if you have any other questions pertaining to election law, please contact the Cook County Bar Association, and our member, Felicia Simmons Stovall, or another qualified attorney will be referred to you to address your questions. Thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you next week at 6:30 Monday to talk about another legal issue. This is the Cook County Bar. You have a good evening.